Last Thursday, a state monitor arrived in Hoboken to help handle the city's financial problems. On tonight's City Council agenda is a tax increase. Joining me now to talk more about it is 2nd Ward Council member Beth Mason. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Sherry, for having me again.
What's being proposed?
Currently, we have approximately a 90% increase in the municipal taxes. That's what's being proposed tonight on the agenda. Unfortunately, we just found out about it this weekend, as is being proposed by this monitor.
So this is being proposed by the monitor?
That's correct. It is not something that the council has had meetings yet as a body itself to even discuss. So one of the issues that we are seeking now is, having that discussion, sitting even where one of the questions that I have is that we were given approximately a 3-page memo that details how this tax increase is being accounted for. However, there's no detail to where those numbers came from. So one of the questions tonight is, how did we arrive at this number, which, given our past experience of getting numbers from either the administration or elsewhere, raises concerns about where is it coming from, what is it funding, and again, for our standpoint, we've done no cutting of the city's budget to address some of the issues that we need to do.
What is it being proposed to cover? You said you don't know. It's
well, there's a couple of categories that exist.
What are the categories?
There are like $4 million in revenue savings that are identified just as $4 million in revenue savings. Well, what are those? And there are costs involved such as $18 million in expenses that were unaccounted for. So we know, for example, last year there's about a $10.1 million shortfall in last year's budget. So that is actually one of the costs that's in this increase. However, it is only part of the increase, not the entire amount. So that we understand, but then what about the other pieces that are being included in that? So you're going from $35 million to a $65 million number. How did you get that $30 million increase? 10 is only a piece of it. Where's the rest of it? The other piece that's on tonight is not just the tax increase that's being proposed, but also an establishment of an expenditure plan for the short term. And the council has yet to sit down and actually come up with cost-cutting mechanisms to offset some of the increase that we're talking about.
Are these two items going to be voted on?
These two items are up for a vote. Whether they will be voted on in the way they're being presented now is very questionable, especially depending on sitting and having a conversation about what are the costs involved. And in this economic environment, to take something like taking all the cost, the $10 million of over expenditure last year, and putting it totally into this year's tax increase, when we have residents that are now out of jobs, they are trying to keep their homes. We have people who are on fixed incomes and having to deal with the shortfall there, could potentially put us in a worse position than we are now if it's not looked at in terms of an entire package. So you have to look at cuts, and you have to look at what the increases are and how you can mitigate the impact on the community given the current national economic situation that we find ourselves in. And Hoboken is unusually influenced by that because of the number of people who work in Manhattan, and especially in the financial business.
If this were to go through, how will it affect the average resident?
The estimation of the cost increase in terms of taxes alone on the average household will be about $1,500 a household.
That's a lot.
That's a lot, yes. And that's an average. So obviously some people will be less and some people will be more.
Do you expect it's going to come to a vote tonight?
I expect it will come to some vote tonight. Again, what the terms of that vote will be is to be determined.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining me to talk about this.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And don't go away, because we'll be right back.